Hi everyone, welcome to the Alamo Boutique. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday. For those of you who have been following us and watching our videos in the past, welcome back and thank you very much for your support. And for those of you who might be watching our video for the very first time, welcome to the Alamo Boutique. We are a fashion retailers and personal style advisors on a mission to help women feel good about what they wear and how they look, so they have that great confidence in themselves to go out and achieve their goals and do whatever they want to do with their life. Just a quick kind of request. As you're logging on, watching the videos, it would be a huge help for us if you could let us know if you're watching the videos live or you're catching the replay. I know Sundays are a busy day with family, so it would really help us with the timing of our videos if you could let us know if you're watching them live or you're watching replays. So if you could use the comment box at the bottom and put in #live or #replay, it would be a huge help for us. Okay, so today we are talking about winter coats and how to pick one. Okay, so if you're planning on buying a winter coat this year, it is quite likely that it is going to be one of the most, if not the most expensive investment into your wardrobe this season. So it really pays to think about it, to think well before you make the decision, because it can be a quite expensive mistake. And they're also quite bulky. They tend to take up a lot of space. So if you buy something that you're not happy with, it's gonna take a huge chunk of your wardrobe and it'll be staring at you every day you open that wardrobe. So let's get into the hints and tips on how to choose the right one. Okay, so when you're trying to pick your winter coat, there are two things you really need to consider. It's the function and the form of the coat. So when we're talking about the function, we're talking about you taking a moment to think about your lifestyle and what your needs are and what needs do you want your coat to fulfill. So if I speak about myself, I'm a really busy working mom. So Monday to Friday, I wear business attire. So I need a coat that would work for that. But on weekends, I spend my Saturdays and Sundays on a football pitch sideline supporting my son, and that means I need a coat that will be warm, that will be durable, that will be weatherproof. So these are really two very different functions I'm looking in a coat. And while I can probably pull off a smart tailored coat with a pair of jeans and runners, it's on trend, it's stylish, I can wear it on a weekend to a football match. But I live in UK. The weather here in winter during the whole football season, it just wouldn't work. I'd be freezing cold. It just wouldn't fulfill the needs. And at the same time, picking a kind of a heavy warm coat like a parka, for example, it would really, it ticks all the boxes what I need for the weekend, but it just wouldn't work for me during the week when I wear a more formal business attire. And I know, like on the catwalk, we've seen a lot of this sort of matching classy and sporty trends. That's really in for this season, but I just feel that very casual jackets, they sort of bring down the formal outfits, and for me personally they don't really work. And if we have an occasion and we're going out somewhere in the evening, I want to look smart, I just would not feel as good in a parka or a padded jacket. So in conclusion, I need two coats. That's the reality. For my lifestyle, I need coats that fulfill two very different functions, so I need two winter coats. On the other hand, if you're the kind of woman who maybe enjoys her lazy sleep-ins on weekends and only really braves the elements going from the house to the car and from the car to the office or from the car to the restaurant or from the car to the shop, You don't need anything that's really bulky and really uncomfortable if you're driving everywhere, because that will be uncomfortable to wear in the car, and you're not actually spending that much time outside by walking from your front door to the car or from the car to the front door. So you can go for something, you know, you just need one jacket really, and you know, you can go for something nice and something stylish and something good quality. And if it does happen that you need to spend a little bit more time outside, you could always supplement your coat with a nice oversized scarf. So let's say if you're going to see a firework display, or you're going to a Christmas market or anything like that, you could always use an oversized scarf, a hat, gloves to keep you warm. So you wouldn't necessarily, for occasional exposure to elements, you wouldn't necessarily need to buy 2 coats if you didn't want to. So these are the things you need to consider when you're thinking about the function you need your coat to fulfill. Can one coat fulfill them, or do you need 2 separate ones? Okay, because if you're looking for one coat to fulfill 2 completely opposite functions, you'll probably end up buying something in the middle that's not going to make you feel good in either setting. Okay, so you need to be realistic with that. Now, when we're talking about the form, we're really talking about the style and the cut of the coat. Okay, so, oh sorry, just to go back to the function. Also, once you decide what function your coat needs to fulfill, the things you need to consider is the fabric and the insulation. So as we spoke about the coat that you wear for more formal attires, you know, kind of you can go for something that's, you know, maybe a woven fabric, something like that. When it comes to these woven fabrics, always wool, fabrics that contain wool will always be warmer, so you can consider that. They tend to be a little bit more expensive, but it could be worth the investment if you're buying something classic that you expect to last you a good few seasons. So keep in mind, wool will be a warmer thing, like coats that have cashmere in them will just, you know, look better. You can buy a cheaper coat. There is a lot there on offer, but when you're buying cheaper coats, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're a girl who really follows trends and you like updating your wardrobe maybe, you know, every year, or, you know, updating your coats every 2 years. It's, you know, it's good to go to buy, you know, more budget friendly coats, but just keep in mind that they, you know, that you just need to be realistic and accept that they're not going to last very long. They're probably not going to, you know, hold the shape like the shoulders, that, you know, like the lapels, you know, they're not going to be, the lines are not going to be as nice and straight. They will, you know, they will not dry clean as good. They'll probably attract lint a little bit more. They might go bally a little bit quicker. And talking about coats going bally, how you know that if there's a potential for a coat to go kind of all bally. So when you look at the fabric, let's say if we look at this fabric, it's quite flat. Okay, so this is quite a flat fabric, so I wouldn't expect that kind of fabric, or this one, you know, that kind of fabric to go kind of all bally. However, this coat, if you look at the fabric, it has kind of a layer of fuzz over it. So it's, you know, while it's a wool coat that's kind of tightly woven, on top of it you do feel that kind of layer of fluffiness. And that's what will cause it to go bally. It's that fluff. But once that fluff wears down a little bit, and there are kind of, you know, those gadgety things like the lint collectors, there's those little gadgets that you can use to take off the balls. Once that initial layer of fluff wears off, you should be good to wear that coat for whatever length of time you want to wear it. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. About fabrics. Also, if you're choosing a coat that you need to keep you warm, and you know, as I spoke about, you know, my weekends where I have to be out on the football pitch, I need a jacket that's weatherproof. So I probably, you know, a woolen jacket wouldn't work. I would need fabric that's not gonna soak in the rain, but it, you know, it will let it kind of run down. So always check the label. The label will always tell you whether it's waterproof, whether it's weatherproof. and it normally has a rating on how weatherproof those jackets are. So depending on where you live and you know how afraid of cold you are, you can pick you can pick your jacket. So labels, do check your labels, don't just assume. I know, like, this jacket is wool and it's really, really warm, and I've worn it when we went to Disney with the kids in January. It's nice and warm, but when that gets wet, like, it soaks in all the moisture. It becomes really, really heavy, and it does not keep you warm. Like, once it's wet, it does not keep you warm, and it takes like 2 days for it to dry because it's quite a heavy coat. So that's something you need to consider if you're going to be exposed to the elements. When it comes to insulation, and when I'm talking about insulation, what I mean is the layer between the lining and the outer fabric. So if we look at this jacket, this is the outer layer, the fabric, and this is the lining. But jackets like parkas and padded jackets, they have a layer in between. So that's the insulation. And when it comes to insulation, you have two options. You can go for the more expensive natural down, which is kind of like light, lovely feathers, and they're nice and light, and they're fluffy, and they last well, they're breathable, they're quite comfortable to wear. But if they get wet, they won't keep you warm. Similar to wool, they soak in the moisture. And also there are quite strict care conditions. You know, if you buy a down coat, you know, you need to really take care of it. You probably would want to take care of it because down fabrics tend to be quite expensive. The other option, a cheaper option, would be to go for a synthetic insulation. It's not as light as down, but it will probably last you longer, and it also still keeps you warm even if it's wet. So this is what you need to consider for insulation. So if you're looking for a jacket that's warm, that you know where you're going to be wearing it outside for extended periods of time, go for something that's insulated, which means it has a layer between the outer fabric and the lining. Okay, so finally we're moving on to the fun stuff, which is the form, the style, the shape, the cut of the coat. Okay, so when it comes to choosing the right cut that will be the most flattering on you, we are going back to the oldie but goodie body shape. So you have to know your body shape to choose the right coat for you. The same way you need to know your body shape to choose the right dress for you. And it's very similar rules apply to choosing the cut of a dress, to choosing the cut of a coat. The only thing is that, you know, if you're living in Central or Western Europe, you will probably be wearing the same coat for the next 4 months. So you want to choose something that's really comfortable and really suits you well. And it's, you know, obviously it can be a lot more expensive than a dress, so you want to make sure you make the right decision. So let's talk about the different body shapes and the coats that we recommend that you should invest in and that would be most flattering on your body shape. So if we're talking about pear-shaped bodies, and I used to be a pear-shape a long time ago, not anymore. So a pear shape is somebody who has narrow shoulders, clearly defined waist, which is unfortunately gone, and wider hips. Okay, so what you want to accentuate, what's the best feature in your body is your waist. Okay, so you want to accentuate that. So you need to go for a coat that is fitted, that is kind of, you know, that maybe has a belt, so it draws attention to the thinner waist, but not just any fitted coat. The coat that would suit a pear shape most is one that is kind of cut A-line, okay, so it comes out at the bottom. And because women with pear-shaped bodies have the wider hips, kind of the classic tailor jacket, which would be something like this. It does have a fitted waist, but it's quite straight. Other than that, it can really catch you on the hips, so you need to be careful, because if it starts gaping here, it will really draw the eye there. So you're much better off going for something that kind of flares out a little bit at the bottom. And this is actually a really good example of a type of coat that would really suit somebody who has a pear shape, because the contrast belt really accentuates the waist. The tulip cut kind of flares out to hide the hips, and also the chunky, fluffy collar is really good to kind of balance out the top part of your body with the bottom part of your body. So if you have pear shape, like if you have a pear shaped body, fur collars or detail collars, or kind of funnel neck collars, they really suit you, and it's a good option to go for, because that gives you that kind of, it adds a bit of volume and it balances it out. Another good option for somebody pear shaped is biker jackets. Now these are probably not going to keep you very warm in the winter, but the reason it's good because they are that bit shorter, so they balance out, they add the volume at the top and they end right at your waist, so it gives a nice balance between your top and your bottom part. Another option are peacoats. Peacoats would be, it could be something like out of woven fabric like this, but the end, like they're a lot shorter. But the only thing to watch out for is if you're buying a shorter coat or a jacket, that it doesn't end at your hip level. So it doesn't end at your widest part. You really need something that either goes longer, which is knee length, or something that ends here, like a biker jacket, at your slimmest part of, at the slimmest part of your waist, because the eye is always drawn where things end, so at the line where things end. So that's where you don't want to draw the eye to the widest part of your body. Okay, so you want to accentuate your best features. So that's pear shape. Apple shape, ladies. If you imagine an apple, it's quite round. So apple shaped ladies would carry most of their weight here, sort of mid-drift. So anything that's fitted around here is not a good idea. Okay, so the coat that would look most flattering on an apple shaped lady would be what it's called a swing coat. So it's not necessarily like a big balloon coat, but a swing coat that's quite fitted at the top, but it flares out just under the bust. Okay, so this is the slimmest part of your body if you're apple shaped and you need your coat to flare out from here, whether it's trapeze, whether it's like swing where you can literally swing in it. This is the most flattering jacket for you. Also for apple shaped ladies, I would recommend avoiding double-breasted coats. So if we look at this, now this only has the 2 buttons, but a lot of them might have like 4 or 6 buttons. Like I will show it on my jacket, but I lost the button right before the video and that's why I was late. But okay, so if I try to close my jacket, which I can't because of the bump, but if I try to close my jacket, the 2 rows of buttons, it creates the horizontal line, making my midriff look even wider, which is why I am leaving my jacket open to create the vertical line to elongate my silhouette and not make me look as wide as I actually are. But so that's why if you have apple shape, avoid coats that are double-breasted that have 2 rows of buttons, because that will create the width around your midriff. But what is really good for apple shaped ladies is like contrast buttons. So I don't have any here, but if you imagine this jacket with the black buttons that go in one straight line, so a jacket with contrast buttons that go in one line, or maybe a jacket that has kind of like a ruffle detail or a contrast insert just around the fastening, or a contrasting zip fastening. It's really, really flattering because it draws the line upwards and downwards, so it creates the vertical line and it is more flattering, it elongates your silhouette. So this is something you could be looking out for if you want kind of a more flattering fit. Next body shape is a rectangle. A rectangle lady would be somebody who has pretty similar measurements on her shoulders, her waist and her hips. So it's quite a boyish figure and it's quite straight. So because the rectangle shape is quite boyish and there isn't a defined waist, you can create a defined waist by wearing a belted jacket. So even if we look at the trench coat, this is quite a light one, but the same principle applies to heavier coats. By adding a kind of a belted coat, you create the illusion of the feminine curves, okay? Because your jacket will be kind of coming out here, then coming in at the waist and coming out again. So you do create that kind of a nice hourglass image, which is you know, a good choice for a rectangle shape. However, if you are quite tall and slim and you have a rectangle body shape or a boyish figure and you are proud of it, you like that. So going for a straight cut jacket, even something classic like this, but not necessarily fitted, like a straight cut, will really accentuate how slim and tall you are. So depending on what kind of look you want to go for, do you want to create the feminine look, go for a belted jacket or a coat, but if you would rather accentuate the fact that you're slim and tall, go for something that is straight cut. Okay, next body shape is inverted triangle. So if you imagine inverted triangle, it's quite wide at the top and it narrows at the bottom. So it's usually women whose shoulders and bust are visually and quite clearly wider than their hips. So it's somebody with a tiny tushy and really nice legs, but maybe wider and heavier at the top. Okay, so once again, it completely depends how you feel about your shape and what you want to get out of your winter jacket. So if you are quite happy with your shape and you want to show off your legs, go with a trapeze jacket or trapeze coat that ends kind of around here. And a trapeze coat is kind of like a ancient cape looking nearly. So it's quite fitted at the top and it just flares out a little bit. But it's quite short, so it would really show off your legs. And usually they have kind of one button fastening at the top. So it's quite, classy, quite elegant, and it's a good option for you. Also cape coats, so like they look like capes, but they have sleeves, and they're kind of a heavier woven fabric. That's a good option for you. Once again, it will show off your legs. However, if you would prefer to have a more balanced look and maybe something a little bit longer, going for the bell or a cocoon coat. And a cocoon coat is literally a cocoon. It's like if we look at this coat from the back, it's kind of oval shape. Okay, so it's widest at the center, or a bell-shaped coat which kind of flares out and comes back in again. But if you put a belt on a coat like that, you can just imagine that it will be quite roomy at the top, so it will be plenty of space for your wider part, but it will also poof out at the bottom, because if you imagine the bell shape will come out nicely, so it will create the hourglass look and it will create a balance between the top and the bottom part of your body. So that's for inverted triangle. Once again, you have the option depending on how you feel about your figure and the look you're trying to create. The very last body shape is hourglass. Okay, so if you're lucky enough to have hourglass body shape, as I said at the start, it's pretty much the same as wearing, like choosing a dress, wrap coats, those kind of like that are the waterfall coats with a belt. They're really good for hourglass. Once again, you really want to accentuate your waist because that's, the best feature in your body. So something with a belt will really work well. In contrast to what a pear-shaped lady would choose, you can wear like classically tailored jackets, which means they're quite, you know, quite straight cut, but just fitted in the middle, so you don't necessarily need A-line for it to come out at the bottom. You can wear straight because the, you know, the kind of your top part and your bottom part are quite similar measurements. So, you know, you shouldn't be catching, if it fits on one, it should fit on the other, as opposed to pear-shaped, you know, if it fits on top, it might not necessarily fit on the bottom. So you can wear classically tailored jackets that are, you know, that are quite straight, similar to kind of a bodycon dress. But what, you know, like hourglass ladies tend to have fuller bust in comparison to pear-shaped ladies. And, you know, in that instance, I think, you know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be hourglass, it can be any body shape, but a woman with a bigger bust, you know, with a kind of ample bust, if you don't want to accentuate the size of your bust, always go for kind of like these long, narrow lapels over funnel neck and over poofy detailed collars and over fur collars. So if you don't want to, if you want to elongate your silhouette, you don't want, you know, like the first thing to be in the face, the bust, I go for something long and narrow. Okay, so just to finish off, these are kind of suggestions for every, you know, for every different body shape. But just to finish off, things that apply, my dog is going crazy. Just to finish off, the things like little hints and tips that apply to every body shape. Okay, knee length is always the most flattering. And I spoke about, like, you know, keeping in mind where your coat ends. So, you know, if you have wider hips, you don't want your coat ending at the hip length. So knee length is, you know, is universally flattering length. The calf length coats, they are really sleek, they are really cool, they are really nice, but you need height for them. So if you're not naturally tall, you might want, you know, you might want to consider that you will probably have to wear heels every time you want to wear your calf length jacket, because otherwise you will just look like you're wearing like somebody else's jacket and you're just lost in it. You know, it will look like it's swallowing you up, because imagine you'll have the same fabric going from here right to your, you know, to your feet. You know, it can be, you know, it can really shrink you and make you smaller visually. So you do need that height to carry off like a full length jacket. If it's something you want to invest in, you know, that's great. They look really, really nice. But once again, just keep in mind that you probably have to wear heels if you're not naturally really tall. If you are petite, okay, so if you are petite, the shorter the better. You know, in contrast to what I said about like full length jacket that can really shrink you and make you look smaller, for petite, shorter coats are better. Anything, you know, nothing longer than knee length, okay? Otherwise, you will look like you're wearing your mother's coat. And the one thing I need to say about petites is if you're buying a coat, you need to watch at the sleeve length, okay? So your jacket has to end, you know, your sleeve has to end at the wrist. If your sleeve ends here, that will really create a quite frumpy look, and it will accentuate how small you are in that coat. So if you are petite, it's a good idea to bring your, you know, to bring your coat to a tailor to make sure that they can, you know, to adjust the sleeves. And, you know, if you're buying a nice winter coat that will last you a good few years, it's good to invest it. You know, like adjusting the sleeves is not a huge, you know, it's not a huge expense, but when it comes to jackets, it is really, really, really worth it. Because as I said, you know, you'll probably be wearing it every day for the next 4 months. This year alone, you need to make sure that it fits you well and makes you feel good. Okay, so keep an eye on those sleeves to make sure that it looks like a jacket that fits you rather than it's a jacket that you borrowed from somebody else. And also for petites, it's a good idea to wear fur collars and poofy collars, details around the neckline, because they draw attention upwards, okay? So rather than having detail at the bottom, which makes people look down and kind of shrinks you, you want to draw attention up. That kind of lifts you up as well. And final note, if you are really, really tall and you have the opposite problem of sleeves of coats being too short for you, you are in luck, because this season the oversized jackets are really in. They're still in. So going for something oversized is a good idea, because the sleeves will fit you well, and you're, you know, if you are really tall, you definitely have the height to carry off, you know, the extra fabric in the oversized jacket. So these are all the tips, these are all the hints and tips that we wanted to share with you today. I hope they were helpful. If you do have any questions, any specific questions about your body shape and what jacket would suit you best, you know, you're welcome to comment or message us. We will be more than happy to answer any questions. That's all I had to say today. I hope you will enjoy your Sunday and have a lovely day. Bye.